Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Clangin and Bangin with Mikey, episode 249. And today what we gonna talk about is man, I've been active on social media. I've always been active on social media. And what I find is that like a lot of guys, and I'm running into this problem too. Is that we meet women, and then women want to sit there and play games with us, right? Um, They want to sit there and act like they too busy to pick up the phone or whatever it is. It's like, you know, and or like they don't want to take the initiative to plan dates and all this other stuff, right? And it's like, it's crazy to me how many guys are put up with that shit or who are going through that shit, and then these women on the flip side, they'll be like, oh, I can't find I can't find a good man, this and this and that. I'm like, no, you had one who was interested in you. You didn't want that. And now you back to the streets. And it's always crazy to me when women will sit there and do that shit. I've never understood it. I've always thought it was weird. Um, and another thing I tell people all the time is that, yo, keep your personal issues off social media. It's like, it's one thing to post, it's another thing to constantly complain. I had to tell somebody that the other day she's in the 30s. I'm like, yo, it's like, you don't understand, like, what I'm trying to tell you is, like, that's not a good look for you. Like, you know, and you taking self-accountability after the fact is, like, this doesn't, it's just not a good look. It's like self-accountability. Before that would be like, yo, is me posting this comment or is me posting this story gonna help this situation? Probably not. Let me just leave this shit alone. Let me just leave it alone because I don't need to be, in a situation where my personal business is out there because I put it out there. Now, there's a difference between letting people know and just venting and whatnot, but it's like social media ain't the place for that, man. But getting back to my original point, so there was this one guy, and he was dealing with this girl, and he had asked her out the very first day that he got her number, and I guess for 2 weeks she was just jerking him around, and like he's saying, like she couldn't meet up because of work and everything like that too, and I'm like, I would have left that alone, bro. Because I once did something where I got this girl's I got this girl's number, texted her, and then like she didn't hit me back. So 2 weeks later, I texted her, got a response, and when I got that response, I followed up with asking her out, just in case, just to see if she would bite. She hit me up a day and a half later. And she said what she said. She said she wasn't interested, right? And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I already knew that you wasn't interested. Just based off the fact that you didn't respond. Took you a day and a half. Now, am I mad? Absolutely not. I'm not mad. I just think it's like, instead of people, because she taught me 3 things actually. She taught me that she sucks at communication. She taught me that she doesn't like confrontation, and she taught me the fact it's like she'd rather be silent than communicate. I know all 3 of them kind of sound differently, but when you really sit there and you think about it, imagine dealing with somebody who doesn't want to talk to you. Imagine dealing with somebody who just, when they deal with conflict or when they deal with something that they're not sure if, they just go silent. It's like, it's simple. It's like, you ain't gotta sit there and be like, oh yeah, like, woe was me, this and this and that. Like, no. It's like, I ran across this meme years ago, and I probably still have it on my phone saved somewhere. And the meme is talking about this guy and his younger brother, and like he's picking him up from school, and like the guy goes, hey, well, did you ask that girl out? And then he's like, yeah, but she said no. And he's like, okay, what you gonna do? He's like, I'm gonna try harder. He's like, no, you're gonna leave her alone. And he was like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, leave her alone because she's already told you she's not interested. By you pressing up on the situation, that just makes shit more awkward than it already is. And it's true. It took me a long time to learn this. You know, in my 20s I fucked up. You know, early 20s I fucked up. Now it's like, okay, it's cool, it's whatever. Like, I don't want to be friends with you. You know, I find you attractive. I asked you out. Boom, you don't want to go. That's cool. You know, we can be civil with each other. You know, but the one thing I'm never gonna do, I'm never gonna sit there and try to force somebody to see my worth. Cause not to sound cocky, but shit, women find me attractive, man. Like they find the confidence attractive, and I'm like, yo, like it is what it is, right? Like I still got exes calling me to this day. You know, calling to check up on a nigga, calling to do X, Y, and Z. He's like, yo, it's like, it's cool, it's whatever, but it's like I don't really see the point of me opening that door for what? You're an example of who not to be with. There's no point for me to do all that shit. And to be honest with you too, not every conversation is meant to be had, right? I had a phone call once. The person asked me if I was okay. And in a roundabout way, I said no, but right now it's not that, you know, it's not that time for that conversation. Because like you gotta read the room and you have to understand that not every conversation is meant to be had at this particular point or ever. Because a lot of the times people will take that conversation and they'll make it about themselves. And they'll make it about themselves, and there's really nothing you can do about it, because it's like they're gonna take that, they're gonna weaponize it, right? And you gotta realize that a lot of people, they're not in that mental space for you know, to have that conversation. They're not in that space where they can receive the information, right? Especially when you're dealing with emotions and relationships, you know, whether platonic, romantic, whatever it is, emotions are all over the place, right? They're like waves. They come and go. And I literally told this person, like, yo, like, right now is not the time for this conversation. And they're like, oh, okay. Because I had to read the room. And I had to tell myself, like, yo, like, is this really worth it? Is me open up this kind of worms worth it at this particular point in time? And it's not, you know? It's not. Because you have to remember one thing. Just because you're ready to have the conversation doesn't mean the other person's ready to have the conversation. If, whenever. You know? Maybe never. You know? I used to have this one friend. She used to always take accountability after the fact. It didn't matter who it was, you know? And it's like, I can understand why you got cheated on multiple times. I can understand why guys didn't want to commit to you. I get all that. Because it's like, why would somebody want to commit to somebody else who never wants to admit when they're wrong? Like, you never admit when you're wrong until after the fact. Then you want to sit there and play victim, and you can't. And that's where a lot of people fuck up at, is because they have a tendency to want to play victim in a situation that they created. In regards to that brother who asked that girl out, a lot of people were like, a lot of people were saying 2 weeks is a long time, this and this and that, and like we were reading it off of how he wrote it, and what he was, and so he hopped back on and he said, like, man, like, I didn't ask her out 2 weeks later. I had asked her out the first day and she kept jerking me around, and I'm like, It's like this other cat, and the same thing in threads, because guys get online and they post their situation with women, right? And I guess he was seeing her for 2 or 3 months or whatever it was, and he had planned all the dates. And the only thing that he wanted to do was, and at that particular point, I think he was seeing her for 2 or 3 months, he had planned like 3 or 4 dates. And he goes, hey, like, on the next day we going, can you plan something? And she fumbled the fuck out of that, because it's like, what she didn't realize is that he was testing her to see if the energy was reciprocal. And when the energy wasn't reciprocal, he left the situation, which most guys would, because we're like, why would we be here? Why would we want to be with somebody who doesn't take the initiative to plan something? Because you don't like me as much as I like you. And that's what that is, bro. A lot of the times, people will only like you because you're a distraction, only like you because you distract them from their current situations, only like you because, simply put, you're the new resource, you know? And it's cool, it's whatever. But sometimes, man, you gotta throw it a bait, you know, and that's what I did. I waited a couple weeks for this one person out, you know, I gave my number to. You know, of course they had my contact information because I gave it to them the same night I got their number. And so I waited a few weeks, you know, flirted a little bit, you know, did my thing. Because I wanted to see if she had the balls to, you know, to actually tell me point blank that she wasn't interested. Eventually she did, but it didn't take much though, because it wasn't me pushing up on the situation. I just simply said like, yo, you know, okay, what's your availability for, you know, sometime next week? Mind you, I didn't specify what day. I didn't specify the time. I just said, what's your availability? And her response was a day and a half later. Oh, I'm sorry, you seem nice, but I'm not interested. Okay, cool. I already knew that. I already knew that you wasn't interested. I just wanted to find out how, you know, if you had the balls to tell me, you know, instead of ghosting me. And it is what it is, bro. I think a lot of it has to do with men just not, like, women are tricky, bro. They're so tricky, because it's like they will sit there and cause issues, and then when they got to deal with the repercussion of said issues, they want to sit there and say all this and do all this shit, and you really can't. Like, it just doesn't work out the way that you think it will work out. It doesn't work out that way, because why would you want to sit there and waste your time with somebody like that? It's like going to the strip club, right? And I know dudes who would go to the strip club, nigga, every weekend, to the point where all the strippers knew who they were. And I'm like, yo, this is kind of not a good scene, my boy. That means you're spending too much time here if all the strippers know exactly who you are. Now there's a difference between like going there and blowing off steam or taking your boys with you, but I'm talking like I said, I knew guys who went there weekly like they was going to church. And don't get me wrong, sometimes you just need to see some titties and some ass, bro. You know, sometimes that's what you need. So yeah, there's that, and I think that's also something that's very unfortunate, because a lot of guys will get caught up in situations like that, and it's like, and I don't mean going to the strip club. I'm just talking about vices in general, or like a lot of guys will ask out the wrong type of girl. What I mean by that is to stay away from the ones who complain. Stay away from the ones who just have an issue with everything. Stay away from the ones that just hop on social media and just yap and take no accountability. Like, they may be nice people, but trust and believe, bruh, they ain't for you. Like this one girl I know, she's always complaining about something, you know, doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, yo, being in a relationship with you gotta be draining, because that's the first thing I thought of. It's like, if you're like this on social media, and I know how you are in real life, because I know you personally, imagine what it's like being in a relationship with your ass. Imagine how difficult that's got to be. Imagine how many insecurities that somebody's got to deal with. And I swear to God, bro, insecurities is a motherfucker. Because we're all insecure to a point. But it's also our job to, to deal with those insecurities appropriately. It's nobody else's job to sit there and try to fucking hold your hand and do X, Y, and Z, because people ain't meant for that, man. They're not meant to deal with your own, to help you deal with your shit. If you want that, nigga, go to therapy. And if therapy don't work, find another therapist. And if that don't work, keep looking for the right therapist. Because I swear to God, man, it's like it's so frustrating. And I'm talking about this because I've dealt with it too. To deal with somebody else's issues all the time, and it's like, yo, it's like you're draining. Like, you are draining. Like there's a reason why that certain people don't want to deal with you. There's a reason why those so-called friends ain't really your friends, because you're more friends to them than they are to you. Why is it every single time that people like that end up getting something good in their life, and we've all had a couple of those friends, like, they ain't really friends, like they just around because they love the broken version of you. And I'm reading this new book. It's called Deep Secrets with boys and with boys and their friends and having intimate relationships. They want close relationships, right? And so in the book, the author is talking about how boys want intimate relationships, close relationships with their male counterparts, not in a sexual way, but I'm saying like an emotional. They want to connect, and then somehow, some way, there's like that line gets blurred or cut off because of society, or I don't know, whatever it is, right? And so there's stuff like that happens. And I remember once I used to have this one friend in grade school, and went through grade school, middle school. We didn't go to high school together. I don't know where he went to high school at. But I remember one day we was in the 7th grade. I'm like, yo, let's go grab lunch or something, man. And I remember clear as day, he told me, I don't hang out with cripples. I'm 36 years old, and I still remember that. Still remember what he said 20 years later. And I think I ran into him in the gym one day, years ago. And, he tried to get up and try to make conversation with me. And I'm like, nah, bro, we good. It's crazy how there's certain things you don't forget. I remember we was in the cafeteria, grabbing lunch, and I was going to go eat lunch with him, right? I was just going to just do that. And when he said what he said, I never looked at him the same way, because it's like, at that point, up until that point, he was one of my only true friends, And for him to say what he said, bruh, that shit stayed with me, right? And back then, it didn't help because I had leg braces too, so that was even more of a mental fuck. I was constantly reminded, But neither here or there, man. It's like, I swear, I wish all the good guys, man, and I don't mean that just verbally, but all the good dudes who want to be in a relationship with somebody who just want to be happy with somebody. I really hope y'all find somebody, man, because it's like, these streets is a motherfucker, Everybody out here doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, bro, for what? What you complaining about? Like, you got a good dude, The nigga may be a little boring. Niggas like me may be a little boring, but you know what? You know where the fuck we at, We got our hobbies. We whether it's a gym, the studio, work, whatever it is, or whether they play basketball every fucking Wednesday with their boys or whatever the fuck it is, right? It's like, um, find out what the person is into, bro. Like, take an interest in what they have going on. Which brings me to this: the Smashing Machine. That shit's horrible. It's a horrible fucking movie. I wasted $19 to watch that shit. No, I'm sorry. I couldn't do it. But in the context of that movie, because Steve Kerr, Mark Kerr's wife, girlfriend at the time, she's codependent on him, right? And throughout the film, it literally talks about that. How it shows her being codependent, how she loves the broken version of him and everything. And it's like, it's like, I've been that broken version of me when I lost my brother. And a lot of the times, women love the fact that they have a project. They love the fact that a man's coming to them broken. They love the fact that he's emotional. They love all this shit, right? Because it's easy to fix. It's easy to be there. But once this man heals, once they become a better version of who they are, that woman can't deal with that. Because, what you mean I can't manipulate you? What you mean I can't gaslight you? What you mean I can't, waste your time? It don't work like that. It don't work like that. And I think that's the most, disheartening thing, that people love the broken version of you because it's easier to control. And we was talking about, me and another partner of mine the other day was talking about X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, if this person's in a toxic ass relationship, that means they're choosing to be. If they have all the signs there that show them that they're in a toxic relationship, then you have to ask them a simple question: why the fuck are you still there? Why are you still in a situation where, you're constantly being reminded that this situation isn't what it is? It's like you keep going into obstacles. It's almost like people don't want to pay attention to the preview to the life movie, and then they get the life movie, which is marriage or having kids with an individual that you don't need to be having kids with, men and women, because who needs to deal with that? Who needs to have somebody in their life that just doesn't get it? Or have somebody in their life that doesn't want to grow up? Or have somebody in their life that just doesn't want to accept the situation for what it is, right? And that's the most disheartening thing. You don't sit there and waste people's time, man. You don't do that. If you're not interested in somebody, like I said in the very beginning, let them go. Let them be who they want to be with, without you standing in the way. And maybe it's just me, but sometimes, fellas, we gotta realize when the shit ran its course. Like, if she's not picking up phone calls or text messages or whatever it is, then leave it alone. Or if she's calling you, 10:30, 11 o'clock, midnight, leave that alone too. Because nobody needs to be involved in a situation like that. Nobody needs to have their mental peace fucked with. Nobody needs to have somebody who's not sure about what the fuck they don't want or what the fuck they want at your expense. It's either you make up your mind or you leave the situation. And rightfully so, people need to leave the situation, because there's nothing there for you that will make you understand that will make you want to be, okay, like this, like this is that, or that is this. It's like, no, it just doesn't sit right. It doesn't sit right. It doesn't align. You can't force somebody to see your worth, because at the end of the day, you are who you are. Don't change up who you are. Change the people around you. It's like the old saying goes: you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. All right, y'all. This is about 25 minutes of your life that y'all won't get back. Hope y'all keeping the 4 Ps: private, positive, playing, and pushing. I'll see y'all next week. I love y'all. And like I always say, I know your worth because you're better than what you are. All right, y'all. Peace.